Here's our new author, Patricia Polacco. This is a book she wrote about herself called Firetalking, and it describes her life and why she became an author. I'd like you to watch this and get a feel for her as an author before we dive deep into her books. So, Firetalking. Here's a picture of her. Here's a picture of her with her family. It says, "To my family." So this is her mom. This is her husband. This is her son, daughter and son, and brother. Okay, here we go. I was born on July 11th, 1944 in Lansing, Michigan, and grew up in Union City until my parents' divorce. Then my mother, my brother, Richard, and I moved to Oakland, California. Every summer, though, Richard and I went back to Michigan to live with our dad. She was born, actually, at the same hospital my dad was born in Lansing, Michigan, in the same year, except for my dad's a little bit older than her. My mother's people were Russian, and my father's people were Irish. In the keeping quilt, I will tell how my mother's family came to be here in America. I still use the same wonderful quilt for wedding chuppahs, tablecloths for special occasions, and to welcome new babies into the world. Both sets of my grandparents were captivating storytellers. With almost no urging at all, they squinted up their eyes, watched our faces, and began to tell. This is her quilt that we'll learn about in the keeping quilt. Many of our evenings were spent in front of the fireplace, popping corn, eating apple wedges, and hearing rich, incredible tales. My babushka, my Ukrainian grandmother, called this fire talking. Whenever she finished one of her tales of magic and mystery, my brother and I would always ask, "Bubby, is that a true story?" She would look at us and reply, "Of course it's true, but it might not have happened." It was she who taught me to make beautiful decorated Pysansky eggs. Because I have such a special love for these Ukrainian eggs, I wrote a story about them called Radchenka's Eggs. We'll hear this story too. My summers with my dad are golden memories. He was a traveling salesman and was on the road a lot. But when Richard and I were with him, he took time off to be with us. We went fishing, took long walks in the woods, and spent almost every other waking hour on horseback. He raised horses and took delight in teaching me their secrets and noble ways. Our school year was spent here in Oakland with my mom. Her house was always filled with beautiful music and lovely things to touch. She saw to it that I took ballet and studied art and drama. I loved it when she framed my drawings and hung them up around the house. In both Mom's house and at Dad's place, there was always a rocking chair just for me. I spent hours and hours just rocking and dreaming every day. I spent a lot of time in my imagination. It soothed the pain of not doing well in school. I had difficulty reading. Math was and still is almost impossible for me. I knew that inside I was very smart, but at school I felt stupid and slow. I had to work very hard to learn things. Now that I'm grown up, I realize that I process information differently than most people do. My brain scrambles images that my eyes see. But once I got the hang of it, I went to school. I even ended up graduating from college and getting a PhD in art history. I didn't start writing and illustrating children's books until I was almost 41 years old. Before that, I was busy being a wife, a mother, and working for museums restoring ancient icons. I am still a mother of a daughter and a son. They are grown up now, and they don't live with my husband and me. My husband, Enzo, is a chef. He spends most of his time giving cooking classes, working in his butcher shop, and writing food reviews for magazines and newspapers. I met him in Australia when I was going to school. Enzo is an Italian Jew from Trieste, Italy. His people came to Italy from Poland. Our name Polacco means that Polish man in Italian. Many members of his family died in the death camps during World War II. I honor them by using their name, Polacco, on my books. I have lived and studied in Australia, England, France, and Russia. Yet here I am, back in my beloved Oakland, California. That's where I live, guys. She doesn't actually live when she wrote this, she lives in Michigan now, but when she wrote this, she lived pretty close to where I live. Enzo and I have 3 cats, Nina, Lolo, and Nikita. Our most beloved cat, Tush, died last year, and she is now buried in a place of honor in our yard. Dear little Tush inspired me to write Mrs. Katz and Tush. We live in a very old brown shingle house right in the center of town in the Rockridge district of Oakland, California. Rockridge district of Oakland. Our yard has so many trees in it, people say they can't see our house. Even though we are in the city, it feels like the country. What I love most about my neighborhood are my friends and neighbors. You can meet some of them in my books. Chicken Sunday is a story straight from my neighborhood. Stuart Washington and his family have been my neighbors for almost 31 years. He's my best friend, and we see each other almost every day. We love to sit and talk on the porch together. These are her children. My family appears in my books too. Our son Stephen is a graduate student in college and is a very gifted artist. Our daughter Tracy lives in Washington and is going back to school to finish her degree in special education. My mother lives a short walk from me in the house that I grew up in. She collects geodes and rocks, probably because she saw a meteor land in her front yard when she was very little. I wrote Meteor to share that incredible event with all of you. Here's that book, Meteor. The big one that landed in my mother's yard is now our family headstone in Riverside Cemetery in Union City, Michigan. In our family, we believe that if we touch it and make wishes on it, the wishes come true. I take a piece of that meteor to schools with me and invite kids to wish on it. I see my mother almost every day. She was a classroom teacher for 38 years. She loves cats too. Her cat, Miss Chiff, loves being naughty and getting into just about everything. I am lucky, so very lucky. I love my life. Can you imagine doing what you love every day? When I'm working on a book, I work every day until it is finished. The first thing I do in the morning, though, just like I did when I was a little girl, is sit and rock. I listen to music and let my imagination soar. I take rocking so seriously, I have at least 1 or 2 rockers in every room of my house. When I rock, my thoughts boil in my head. They catch the air and fly. The images and stories come with fury and energy. I feel like Applemondo in Applemondo's dreams. My stories float above me. I jot thoughts and outlines down on a pad, then go out and do a run. Running is something I started doing about 8 years ago when my son was diagnosed with diabetes and needed to exercise. I used to run beside his bike to make sure that he didn't have insulin reaction. After a while, he didn't need me anymore, but I liked running so much I kept at it. After my run, my workday begins. I spend the next few hours talking on the phone, typing, or drawing. My heart sings whenever I'm drawing. As far back as I can remember, I knew that drawing connected me somehow to the universe, and maybe even God. When I do illustrations for a book, I first draw everything in pencil. I make what is called a rough dummy. It looks exactly like the unfinished book, except it's in black and white. I use those drawings to make the color finishes. I draw the layout in pencil, then I lay in color with markers, acrylic paint, oil paint, pastels, and inks. Sometimes I cut out photographs of real people and paste them into my artwork. I can't tell you how many times I have made my family, my friends, and even my neighbors stop what they were doing to pose for me. I don't always get my drawings or stories right the first time. Sometimes I have to do them over and over again. So there she is. Look here, look at all the notes in that book. See all that red pen? That's a lot of editing to make her book work perfectly. Some days I go to schools and give author programs. Sometimes I fly to other cities to talk to children, teachers, and librarians. As much as I love meeting children everywhere, I always look forward to coming home. I like to end a good, hard day sitting with my friends and family in front of the fireplace. One of us, and it never matters who, will launch into a glorious tale told from the heart. After the fire talking, a small voice will always ask, "Is that a true story?" The answer is, "Of course it's true," but it may not have happened. There you are. Okay, so that is our first author, Patricia, or our first author of distance learning, Patricia Polacco. I hope you enjoyed learning about her.